Welcome back, everyone. I hope you are enjoying the holiday season wherever you may be. This episode will discuss in detail the history of the Mexican Mafia Black Hand, La Mano Negra, its original creation, intent, and evolvement to the present. But before I proceed, a quick word from our sponsor. Again I say unto you, that if two of you shall agree on earth, as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, if you agree with me right now to intercede in prayer for those in darkness, He will respond. Amen. This verse is in Matthew chapter 18 and verses 19 and 20. The Mexican Mafia's Black Hand can be traced to La Mano Negra, the Italian method of extortion used by the Mafia and Camorra gangsters who began operating in the 1880s. Always remember that in the world of gangs, these characters have a historical propensity for emulating, modifying, and copy and pasting other gangs, their names, characteristics, and even their way of operating. It happens all the time. Led by 17-year-old Luis Güero Buff Flores from the Hawaiian Garden Street Gang in southeast Los Angeles, he created the first United States prison gang in 1957. Güero Buff was joined by a group of 15 to 20 incarcerated gang youths, kindred spirits who were leaders from their Los Angeles-based street gangs. There was also one OG member from Bakersfield. This gang, I referred to them in one of my books as the Gang of Gangs, was spawned inside DVI, the Dual Vocational Institution in Tracy, California. The term mafia was used with calculation and in obvious emulation of the Sicilian mob. It was a gangster worship thing for these teenage misfits. The mob held a certain fascination with street gangsters looking to carve out their unique niche in the criminal world. The death oath, code of silence, plus the use of fear and intimidation as a tool for controlling the jailhouse black market activities were effectively exploited for their benefit. The influence of the traditional mob was evident to members of the Mexican Mafia, also known as La M, the phonetic pronunciation of the letter M. While doing time inside the California prison system, they began referring to La Mano Negra, the Black Hand, in conjunction with their fellow carnales, or brothers. In the early 1970s, the M figure who introduced the Black Hand was Alex Mo Farrell from Eloyo Maravilla. Like the depictions you are observing in this graphic, photographs began to surface with Mexican Mafia members flashing their manos, their hands, in a flamboyant and somewhat menacing fashion, which at first simply appeared to be an innocent greeting. As it began to appear in confiscated photos and prison kites and graffiti, it became obvious to the trained eye there was a deeper significance to this gang sign. Although the M had already been in existence for 15 years, the earliest depictions of the Black Hand have been traced to the early 1970s. To M assassins, many having already committed street and prison homicides, the Black Hand was synonymous with death, and to us it simply communicated death to our enemies. The message to an adversary or target, the Black Hand could reach out and touch anyone, anywhere. It was also the Mexican Mafia's manner of communicating and reinforcing that committing 187s, the California Penal Code for murder, was the ultimate demonstration of loyalty. Prison photographs from 1972 are the earliest depictions of the MS display of the Black Hand. Some revelations of this logo were discovered in April 1973 at San Quentin's segregation unit, known as B Section, following the confiscation of documents from MM member Psychedelic Mike Gaxiola from Venice, after he locked up, a term for a convict seeking protective custody. Found in his cell was a personal drawing he created showing the Black Hand with the nicknames and street gang affiliations of many of the early M. Carnales and associates. It was dated 1967. Psychedelic Mike also undertook some personal artistic latitude by quantifying a characteristic for each finger of the hand. Venganza, vengeance. This denoted vengeance against their enemies. Muerte, death, the ultimate punishment to a Mexican Mafia adversary. Terror, terror, utilized as a tool to maintain control over MS criminal endeavors behind bars. Silencio, silence. The MS code of silence was strictly enforced. Valor, valor. Courageous acts of valor were recognized by La M. In 1999, Mike surrendered this drawing to a lieutenant while serving a stretch in prison. It is dated and signed by Psychedelic Mike, displaying the up-to-date MM members and close associates as of 1964. Like the previous 1973 drawing, these depictions have been copied and circulated in books and online many times over. Oftentimes, they have been misrepresented as documents generated in the 1960s, but they were drawn in 1973 and 1999 by contemporary prison artist Psychedelic Mike, who was first introduced to Mexican Mafia members in 1964 and became a made member in 1967 at San Quentin. No earlier Black Hand photos, drawings, renditions, depictions, or tattoos in connection with the Mexican Mafia have been introduced before 1972. As you all can see from this group photograph, not only did the Black Hand's journey navigate from prison to prison, but it also traveled to the 1976 San Francisco funeral of MM member Jesse Chuy Frajo from Norwalk, who died of a heroin overdose. The photo you are viewing depicts the largest street representation of Mexican Mafia members, many heavyweights, in one group. There is a total of 13 mafiosos and one associate. 4 members standing are displaying the Black Hand. From left to right, Gus Rivera from San Diego Logan Heights, Tati Torres from La Rana, Ralph Mata from Florencia 13, and Jimmy Joe Lucero from New Mexico. The 2 men squatting and giving the gang sign are Chavo Perez and Richie Ruiz, both from Bakersfield. Even some of the little ones were trained to have fun with their daddies. 6 Mexican Mafia members are pictured together here at the home of Dangerous Dan, whose 2 young boys are encouraged to pose, with their little hands outstretched and prominently displaying the Black Hand. One of the kids is firing his toy gun. Standing in this photo from left to right were MM members Ralph Mata from Florencia 13, Johnny Green Eyes Gonzalez and Cuate Jimenez from Eloyo Maravilla, Chavo Perez from Bakersfield, and Dangerous Dan de Avila from the Avenues. Squatting with the kids was Victor Mesa from Florencia 13. The Black Hand was very popular at various functions with some members of the law enforcement community. The 2 prison gang task force special agents shown here represented the Los Angeles Sheriff's and Montebello Police Departments. The photo was taken at the 1983 retirement ceremony for the late California Corrections legend Sergeant William Bill Hankins, the first IGI, institutional gang investigator, who discovered the Mexican Mafia in 1961 at San Quentin when La M was in its early developing stages. You can read about Sergeant Hankins and his early investigations of the Big Four prison gangs in the book titled Alpha Guard by William Bill Hankins. Sometime in the 1980s, Mexican Mafia members began to tattoo the Black Hand on their bodies. In the prison and street underworld, it rapidly became a recognizable identifier of the Mexican Mafia. In 2008, what was previously a West Coast and prison logo of exclusive identification became public knowledge in the book The Black Hand, authored by Los Angeles KTTV 11 award-winning journalist Chris Blatchford. It is the autobiography of M member Rene "Boxer" Enriquez that chronicles the history and evolution of the Mexican Mafia up until the time of Rene's 2002 defection from the organization and beyond. From a menacing prison gang sign with dark implications to their adversaries, the evolvement of the Black Hand transformed to the official Mexican Mafia tattoo. Today, in criminal circles, whether in a United States prison or on the streets of any Hispanic barrio, only a made Mexican Mafia carnal can wear the Black Hand tattoo. The punishment for any other person who wears it is death. Through decades of evolvement, one would think these men would morph away from wearing incriminating and identifying tattoos. Why then would they openly advertise their gang affiliation if attempting to fly under the radar? There are simple answers. First and foremost, most of these men are serving lengthy prison sentences, with many doing all day, life sentences. These members are already validated and known by gang specialists who share their status with fellow law enforcement officers throughout the country. They will never be under the radar. Then you can factor in the contempt and the arrogance of Mexican Mafia members, and they become their own worst enemies. At the end of the day, they simply don't care. The status attached to gang graffiti and tattoos has special significance to a street and prison gangster who seeks and craves attention, approval, recognition, and yes, even love. Like a neon sign, it advertises and shouts out to the world, "Look at me. I am special. I am someone to be reckoned with. I am not a nobody. I am indeed somebody." La Mano Negra, the Black Hand. What a legacy to pass down to your children, your next generation. To think that grown men worship the status and meaning of this Mexican Mafia hieroglyphic. May the good Lord open the eyes of the men and women who buy into the futility of the gang world. I will conclude by proclaiming the following truth. Solamente la mano de Dios es digna de adoración. Only the hand of God is worthy of worship. Amen.